Alright, welcome back into the garage. This is an update. This was a long overdue video. Sorry for all those people who actually watch my videos, but yeah, this is taking forever. Let me give you an update since where we last left. So the intercooler's in for good. This top plate that I made catches the intercooler and also catches the radiator. That's in. The radiator's in. My fan shroud I made is in, and then my electric fan is in. And it's close, you know, I only got about 2 fingers between the electric fan and the water pump. Now, the transmission is not fully in yet, so the angle of the motor may pitch a little bit different, but I am fine with that clearance. The motor's in for good on its mounts. My aftermarket 80-pound injectors are in. The fuel rails, if you watched the last video, I ordered these fuel rails. They're pretty nice. They got a little gauge, and then they have a AN hose that drops under the throttle body, and it goes back there, and then that'll be the inlet. The other side of the fuel rail, that is a plug. That'll be my inlet. And my fuel pressure regulator will be mounted somewhere in there, and then supply fuel pressure to the rails. The firewall's all been painted, patched. If you watched the last video, there were holes here. Those have been patched. And I had to clearance all of this. So you see I rub my hand back in there. That's all been patched, welded, and bondoed. And then while I had everything, I wire brushed the whole engine bay, and I painted it all with the high temp spray paint. That's all in. One of the things I was really happy about is I was worried about my steering clearances. So that steering shaft way down there barely rubbed my motor mount. Barely rubbed my motor mount. I had to just grind it a tiny bit, but the motor mounts are in. I also did new tie rod ends, new boots on the rack and pinion, both sides. Kind of put all the rack and pinion back together, greased it, cleaned up the bottom underneath here, underneath the motor anyway. The motor's in for good. I got a piece of wood holding up the motor for right now. And then I still got a touch-up paint on the bottom, but all the paint's done on the top. And there's that steering shaft. You can see it a little bit better, but you can't see the other side where it's had to grind a tiny bit. But now the steering shaft's in and the steering's all done. So, when I got to this point, I got the motor in and, you know, everything looked sweet. I got really excited because I wanted to start fabricating all my turbo stuff. I was really excited, just wanted to put the turbo in, and then wanted to do a big reveal video with you guys showing the turbo and all the piping, because all the turbo and piping, everything is this way forward. So I was starting to, you know, mock up placement of where the turbo is going to go, but then I remembered the trans isn't in, so that means the angle of my motor is not set. So if I were to drill a hole through the firewall for my cooler piping, or I were to try to put my turbo here and cut a little bit of clearance for the turbo, then when I put my trans in, I didn't want everything just angle backwards and I run into everything. So I was like, dang it, I can't do all my turbo piping yet. So I need to put the trans in, secure the back of the trans, then I can do all my turbo piping if I want to do all this up front work. So that led me to the trans. I could have just mocked it in, but I don't want to do that. I want it to be fully secure, and I was tired of messing around with greasy trans, so I was like, let's just bite the bullet. Let's do what takes forever and rebuild the trans. So that's why you'll see I got output tail shaft parts here, new bushing in there, new seal, and then over here she is. I disassembled it fully, pressure washed it. Here's a tip for you guys if you guys got something really greasy. I found that I really love easy off oven cleaner. Sprayed it with oven cleaner and I pressure washed it, came right off. Didn't even have to scrub. So easy off oven cleaner. That's pretty good stuff for cleaning greasy car parts. So I'm like maybe 40% of the way done. I have to press this and get clutches out of here. But when I say 40% of the way done, let me kind of explain what that means. I have the bottom gear train in it, and I'll pull that out. So just this stack takes a lot of work. And you can see the bottom of the trans. I got a Home Depot bucket flipped upside down with some wood on it with a hole drilled in it. But a lot of people will see just this stack and they say, well, what's so much work about that? That's about, looks like 3 different pieces. Yeah, it's about 3 different pieces. But each one of these pieces, you got to rebuild everything. You got to take snap ring out. There's like 4 seals in here. There's bushings, like these type of bushings. And these are not easy to get out. I have to hammer them out with a hammer and a chisel. And let me give you a better idea. All the little pieces that came out of just that stack. This is my book. This is how thick it is. Besides the starter, obviously. This is all the little tiny pieces that came out of that whole stack. All the bushings I replaced, all the little seals, all the rubber seals, all the big bushings. That was the biggest one. The band, that's in the case of the transmission. Thrust washers. That's all that came out of that little stack that I just pulled out of the trans for you. I still got to put all these pieces in. All these gaskets, all these seals, all these little ones. So yeah, trans and me take forever because I'm not an expert. I can't just do it like second nature. I have to stop, read the book, research, go, and get like one bushing out, and then stop, read the book, research, and go. So it takes me forever, but slowly but surely, a little bit of work on it every day and it'll get done. So that's it. That's a video update. You know, motor's in, looks great. These are not gonna stay. I actually ran these on my daily driver Camaro and they got oil soaked and they would slowly drip. Like, not a lot, but they would drip. And that's not gonna work on the turbo headers. Header's hot. So these are actually gonna come out. I ended up putting a catch can in my daily driver Camaro, and I'm going to run lines to the wall over there and do an actual catch can. Ever since I did an actual catch can, I don't have any oil drip at all in my daily. So these are going to come out and it'll go to a catch can. But everything, yeah, the motor's in, all the motor mount stuff is done. And I was really excited because I was wanting to do my turbo stuff, but I don't know the official angle that all going to be mounted in, so that'll have to wait, and now I'm working on my trans. So yeah, that's a little quick short update. But yeah, all the firewalls painted, it's all painted up back there. All of my clearance notches for my radiator, that's all in. The radiator piping looks like it'll be super simple. An elbow here and an elbow there, and then an elbow here and an elbow there. The turbo piping is going to elbow down and go around that radiator piping and then back up, and it'll be on that side. The turbo will. And so basically, because this is the headlight, there'll be a hole right here, and that'll be the turbo intake, and you'll be able to see the turbo through the grill, so that'll be pretty neat. But I will have to cut like kind of all this section out. Yeah, that's it. Just mainly working on my trans. And I am rebuilding it with a Jake Stage 2 kit, so there is performance modifications as I go. So that makes it a little bit more tricky, because you can't just follow a standard rebuild book. You got to follow the rebuild book for most of it, but then when it comes time for the Jake's performance parts, then you got to consult their instructions and the rebuild book and then keep going. But like, that's another one of those bushings that I have to knock out and then put a new one in. Clutch discs. This trans actually looked really good. Normally if the trans are real bad, like the steel part will be all heat marked and wavy, but this trans actually looked really good and didn't have any signs of bad parts. I bagged all my parts. There's valve body and stuff laying in the bottom of the trans pan. That's half of the pump, and then front sun gear set, so I'll have to rebuild all that. Yeah, that's it. That's my update. Hope you like it. Trans is just taking forever, but once I get through that, it should start flying with progress that's actually visible. Alright, see you later.